In today's video, I'm going to be continuing my journey through the main questline featured in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Last time, the adventure had just begun, and I found myself being hauled off to Helgen for execution. A dragon attacked, and amongst the chaos, members from both the Legion and the Stormcloaks were able to escape. From there, I traveled to Whiterun and met with the Jarl. He had me retrieve a Dragonstone tablet from Bleakfall's Barrow in order to help with the dragon attacks. Whilst in the dungeon, I absorbed some form of knowledge from a word wall, but wasn't quite sure what had actually happened. Upon returning to Dragon's Reach, I was immediately sent back out and tasked with defeating a dragon at Whiterun's western watchtower. After doing so, I then absorbed the dragon's soul and unleashed some form of strange power called a shout. The guards seemed to think I was something called dragonborn, an old Nordic legend. On my way back to Whiterun, I overheard rumbles from the sky, which sounded like a group of men calling for the Dovahkiin. I was then told it was the summoning of the Greybeards and that I should ascend the 7,000 steps in order to answer their call. In doing so, I made it to High Hrothgar, and they informed me on what it meant to be dragonborn, helped me understand my thums, or shouts better, and even taught me some brand new shouts. They ended by asking me to retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller in order to truly prove my legacy to them. This is where the journey continues. Exiting High Hrothgar, I popped open the map and scrolled over to Ustengrav. It was close to the city of Morthal, which wasn't a location I'd been to or even near for that matter. So I fast traveled over to the Whiterun stables and paid the carriage driver to take me there. Arriving, I began to run north-northeast until reaching the old Nordic ruin. Just outside of it was a group of 3 ragtag ruffians, 2 bandits and a necromancer. Taking them out, I descended the steps leading to the Ustengrav doors and noticed a dead body just outside. I wasn't sure if maybe he got into a dispute with his fellow bandits, or if perhaps there was more going on here than meets the eye. Going inside, I spotted 2 more recently deceased outlaws. Again, it was pretty strange, as I didn't know what was killing them. Just ahead in the distance from where I was crouched, I noticed a few NPCs idling and wandering around. Taking out my bow and letting loose a few arrows, it all finally made sense to me. I'm pretty sure the necromancers, conjurers, mages, whatever this faction was, were at odds with the bandits, and that's why there were dead bodies strewn about. Once they were all defeated, I continued ahead and quickly came to another halt as I heard the sounds of battle. This time though, there were corpses of necromancers and draugr laying around, and from the noises I was hearing, it seemed like the undead were winning the fight. Rolling in with my bow, I played the part of cleanup crew and picked off the remaining draugr. From here, it seemed like the only enemies remaining were the undead, and similar to Bleakfall's Barrow, they came in the forms of normal and restless draugr. While maneuvering through the dungeon, I experimented with switching between different combat styles in order to better level all of my skills. Each new room I'd go inside of would have different spoils to take, like potions or gold. Soon, I found myself entering a new zone called the Ustengrav Depths. Looking at the compass, I knew this was likely the final area I'd need to be in, and in just a few rooms over, I'd come across the horn. For the first few sections, I continued my fight against the draugr, slowly crawling through each part and taking out anything that was in my path. Eventually, I wandered into a massive open area. At the bottom of the chasm, I saw a word wall which had me pretty excited. I wasn't sure which power this one was going to grant me, and that made it all the more interesting. In order to get to the bottom, I had to battle my way through skeletons, which I believe is my first time fighting these foes. They drop easier than draugr though, and I was able to one-shot them with my bow. After clearing the area, I descended to the bottom and got in close to the word wall. The new thum turned out to be Fade, which was part of the Become Ethereal shout. This one granted me the power to enter into some kind of in-between state. Whilst there, I could do no harm, nor be harmed. Definitely a good shout to use if things ever got hairy and I needed to make a quick escape. Ascending back to the upper platforms of the depths, I came across a new puzzle of sorts. This one had 3 stones in a line, and when they were walked in front of, would glow red and temporarily lift one of 3 gates. This was a test for the whirlwind sprint shout that the Greybeards had just given me, so queuing it up, I ran past all 3, cast my thum, and made it to the other side. The next little area seemed less like a puzzle and more like a trap. There were pressure plates all over the floor, and when certain ones were walked on, streams of fire would come shooting up and burn my character. Eventually, I got to a part where there were some rocks off to the side that I could safely stand on. Just ahead was a room full of frostbite spiders, but given my position, I was able to easily shoot them down with my bow. Thinking I was safe, I approached their side of the room, and wouldn't you know it, a bigger frostbite spider dropped down right on my head. It gave me a good sting and drastically lowered my health. For a brief second, I thought my character was going to die, but luckily, I was able to pop some potions just before the poison kicked in. Clearing out all of the spiders, the final area was just ahead. Pulling a chain and opening the gates, I stepped into the chamber and watched some ancient Nordic structures emerge from the water. Moving forward, I prepared myself for one final battle. Was it going to be a giant frostbite spider, or perhaps a Draugr overlord? As I neared the back, I saw that it was in fact going to be neither. All of the Draugr in here were already slain, and what's more, there was a note on the pedestal where the horn of Jurgen Windcaller was supposed to be. Getting in close, the mysterious note read, "Dragonborn, I need to speak to you, urgently. Rent the attic room at the Sleeping Giant Inn in Riverwood, and I'll meet you. Signed, a friend." Confused at who else would come for the horn and be able to make it this far, I left the chamber, grabbed my much-deserved loot, and followed a hidden pathway back to the start of Ustengrav. Once outside, I popped open the map, fast-traveled over to Riverwood, and entered the aforementioned inn. My quest marker pointed me to a Breton named Delphine. She seemed awfully familiar, almost like I had encountered her not a few quests ago.
I'm the innkeeper. It's my business to keep track of strangers.
I asked her if I could rent the attic room.
Attic room, eh? Well, we don't have an attic room, but you can have the one on the left. Make yourself at home.
Well, here's to hoping that whoever wanted to meet me in the attic would know that I could only get a room on the ground floor. Jokes aside, I entered the quarters and waited for a few moments before Delphine came walking in.
So you're the dragonborn I've been hearing so much about. I think you're looking for this. We need to talk. Follow me.
She nonchalantly handed me the horn of Jurgen Windcaller, practically as if it meant nothing to her. Who was this Delphine, and what did she want with me? Not really having much of a choice but to follow her, I went inside her quarters.
Close the door. Now we can talk.
She opened some kind of false door in her closet, and that led down into what appeared to be a war room of sorts. She was stocked up on weapons, supplies, potions, and books. She even had her own enchanting and alchemy tables down here. Before I could look around some more, she recaptured my attention.
The Greybeards seem to think you're the Dragonborn. I hope they're right.
I asked if she was the one who took the horn.
Surprised? I guess I'm getting pretty good at my harmless innkeeper act.
I asked her what was with all of the discretion.
You can't be too careful. Thalmor spies are everywhere.
Getting into it, I questioned what she wanted with me.
I didn't go to all this trouble on a whim. I needed to make sure it wasn't a Thalmor trap. I am not your enemy. I already gave you the horn. I'm actually trying to help you. I just need you to hear me out.
I tell her I'm listening.
Like I said in my note, I've heard that you might be Dragonborn. I'm part of a group that's been looking for you. Well, someone like you, for a very long time. If you really are Dragonborn, that is. Before I tell you any more, I need to make sure I can trust you.
I ask how I know I can trust her.
If you don't trust me, you were a fool to walk in here in the first place.
I grilled Delphine on why she was looking for the Dragonborn.
We remember what most don't, that the Dragonborn is the ultimate dragon slayer. You're the only one that can kill a dragon permanently by devouring its soul. Can you do it? Can you devour a dragon's soul?
I tell her that's how I first learned I was Dragonborn.
Good, and you'll have a chance to prove it to me soon enough.
I asked her what exactly she wasn't telling me here.
Dragons aren't just coming back. They're coming back to life. They weren't gone somewhere for all these years. They were dead, killed off centuries ago by my predecessors. Now something's happening to bring them back to life, and I need you to help me stop it.
I wondered why she thought the dragons were coming back to life.
I know they are. I visited their ancient burial mounds and found them empty, and I figured out where the next one will come back to life. We're going to go there, and you're going to kill that dragon. If we succeed, I'll tell you anything you want to know.
I asked Delphine how she was able to figure all of this out.
You should know. You got the map for me. The Dragonstone you got for Farengar, remember?
It was then that my character remembered her being at Dragon's Reach with Farengar after Bleak Falls Barrow.
So you were paying attention. I arranged to have Farengar recover the Dragonstone for me. It's what I do. I make things happen from behind the scenes. After all, here you are.
Even though Farengar once said so, I asked Delphine if the Dragonstone truly was a
Yes,
map.
a map of ancient dragon burial sites. I've looked at which ones are now empty. The pattern is pretty clear. It seems to be spreading from the southeast, starting in the Gerals near Riften. The one near Kynesgrove is next, if the pattern holds.
Finally, I asked her where we're headed next.
Kynesgrove. There's an ancient dragon burial near there. If we can get there before it happens, maybe we'll learn how to stop it.
I tell her that I'm ready.
I need to get into my traveling gear. Give me a minute and I'll be ready.
Before leaving, I take a look around her hidden room and help myself to everything she has available. I suppose because she's welcomed me with open arms and for the most part thinks I'm dragonborn, it isn't considered stealing. On the wall, she had the signature Blades katana, and I wondered if anyone who saw me with it and knew what it was would accost me over it, mainly the Thalmor. Regardless, once done, I left the inn and fast traveled to High Hrothgar in order to finish what I had started. Seeking out Master Arngir in the keep, I spoke with him.
Ah, you've retrieved the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. Well done. You have now passed all the trials. Come with me. It is time for us to recognize you formally as Dragonborn.
Following him to the front area, all 4 members gathered round.
You are ready to learn the final word of unrelenting force. Da, which means push. Da. With all 3 words together, this shout is much more powerful. Use it wisely. Master Wulfgar will now gift you with his knowledge of Da. You have completed your training, Dragonborn. We would speak to you. Stand between us and prepare yourself. Few can withstand the unbridled voice of the Greybeards, but you are ready.
Barely getting my toes in the center, the Greybeards immediately began their shouting.
Meis nu ismir dovasebrom daman da rock. Dovahkiin, you have tasted the voice of the Greybeards and passed through unscathed. High Hrothgar is open to you.
With that, the Horn of Jurgen Windcaller quest was officially completed, and now it was time to resume my work with Delphine. Popping open the map, I saw that Kynesgrove wasn't that far from Windhelm. So, fast traveling to the Whiterun stables and paying the carriage driver, I ended up just outside the supposed oldest man-made city in Tamriel and began riding southeast. Getting to Kynesgrove in no time, a distressed woman came running out of nowhere and right over to me.
No, you don't want to go up there. A dragon, it's attacking!
I asked her where the dragon was.
It flew over the town and landed on the old dragon burial mound. I don't know what it's doing up there, but I'm not waiting around to find out.
As soon as she ran away, I saw the black dragon from Helgen flying overhead. It was exactly as Delphine suspected. Galloping up the rocky face, I heard the dragon tongue in the distance as I neared the burial ground. As the dragon was flying around the site, a strange vortex of light swirled up from the tomb. It looked similar to the energy that my character absorbs when there's a word of power or a dragon soul nearby. Soon, a skeletal beast burst up from the ground and crawled over to its kin. Through subtitles, we can see that the black dragon is named Alduin, and the one that was just resurrected is called Saluknir. After they're done speaking with one another, Alduin then turns to me.
Korav need no dove to hide. You do not even know our tongue, do you? Such arrogance, to dare take for yourself the name of Nova. Sarukanir, Kridar Jur.
As he leaves the scene, Salaknir takes flight and charges up its attacks. In the corner of my eye, I see that Delphine finally made it, and together we begin our assault on the dragon. As it lands, it breathes a heavy wave of fire and lowers my health by a good bit. I decided to start the battle on horseback just for fun, and strangely enough, my horse was able to physically push the dragon around. It was entertaining to watch, but also made it difficult to actually land a hit. So, as soon as Salaknir took flight again, I dismounted my horse and joined Delphine for ground combat. Using my full unrelenting force on the dragon, I was able to stagger it a bit, but ultimately it wasn't that useful. I had to frequently pop potions for this fight, as its fire breath took a lot out of me. Shooting at it while it was in the sky, and swinging at it while it was on the ground, the cycle continued for a good bit. It was similar to my fight with the dragon near Whiterun, except this time, I didn't have a tower to hide in, nor the reinforcements of several soldiers. Eventually, Salaknir landed one final time, and together, Delphine and I delivered the killing blow. If there wasn't enough evidence already, my character absorbing the dragon soul was likely the cherry on top for proof of my dragonborn status. Delphine, amazed and shocked, said that it was finally time for her to answer all of my questions.
I owe you some answers, don't I? Go ahead. Whatever you want to know. Nothing held back.
To start, I asked who she was and what she wanted with me.
I'm one of the last members of the Blades. A very long time ago, the Blades were dragon slayers, and we served the dragonborn, the greatest dragon slayer. For the last 200 years since the last dragonborn emperor, the Blades have been searching for a purpose. Now that dragons are coming back, our purpose is clear again. We need to stop them.
I then asked her what she knew about the dragons returning.
Not a damn thing. I was just as surprised as you to find that big black dragon here.
I informed Delphine that I've seen that dragon before.
Really? Where?
I tell her over at Helgen.
Interesting. Same dragon. Damn it, we're blundering around in the dark here. We need to figure out who's behind it all.
I then asked her who the Blades are.
Exactly. Nobody even remembers our name these days. We used to be known across Tamriel as the protectors of the Septim Emperors. Those days are long gone, though. For the last 200 years, we've been searching for the next Dragonborn to guide and guard, as we are sworn to do. But we never found one, until now.
I asked Delphine what our next move was.
The first thing we need to do is figure out who's behind the dragons. The Thalmor are our best lead. If they aren't involved, they'll know who is.
Unsure of who they are, I inquired further on the Thalmor.
The faction that rules the Aldmeri Dominion. The ones who almost destroyed the Empire during the Great War 30 years back. There's no worse enemy to humankind in Tamriel. The Empire barely survived the last war. The Thalmor don't intend to lose the next one.
To follow that, I wondered why they were after her.
Before the Great War, the Blades helped the Empire against the Thalmor. Our Grand Master saw them as the greatest threat to Tamriel. At the time, that was true. Maybe it still is. So we fought them in the shadows, all across Tamriel. We thought we were more than a match for them. We were wrong.
I then questioned why she thinks the Thalmor are behind the return of the dragons.
Nothing solid, yet. But my gut tells me it can't be anybody else. The Empire had captured Ulfric. The war was basically over. Then a dragon attacks, Ulfric escapes, and the war is back on. And now the dragons are attacking everywhere, indiscriminately. Skyrim is weakened. The Empire is weakened. Who else gains from that but the Thalmor?
Lastly, I asked her how we can find out if the Thalmor know about the dragons.
If we could get into the Thalmor embassy, it's the center of their operations in Skyrim. Problem is, that place is locked up tighter than a miser's purse. They could teach me a few things about paranoia.
I followed that up by inquiring about how we'd even get into the embassy.
I'm not sure yet. I have a few ideas, but I'll need some time to pull things together. Meet me back in Riverwood. If I'm not back when you get there, wait for me. I shouldn't be long. Keep an eye on the sky. This is only going to get worse.
There's certainly a lot of moving pieces to this puzzle, but it seems like we at least have a lead we can check out. With that, thus ends the quest, A Blade in the Dark. From Kynes Grove, I quickly fast traveled over to Whiterun and did some upkeep, selling my excess weapons, stocking up on supplies, and disenchanting extra gear. Once finished, I headed on over to Riverwood and entered back inside of the Sleeping Giant Inn. Delphine was waiting for me by the entrance, and together we descended to her war room. This part isn't really relevant, but I did find it kind of comical. Delphine kept trying to approach me in order to continue with the quest, but Sven and his ballads were blaring in the background. So, while waiting for him to finish, I was breaking some ankles around the table and evading Delphine like my life depended on it.
But this land is ours, and we'll see it wiped clean of the scourge that has sullied our hopes and our dreams.
Finally, Sven had wrapped up, and I let her come to me.
I figured out how we're going to get you into the Thalmor embassy.
I asked her if she was coming with me.
That would be a bad idea. I'd be too likely to attract the wrong kind of attention. But they don't know you at all yet.
I inquired about her plan to infiltrate the embassy.
The Thalmor ambassador, Elenwen, regularly throws parties where the rich and connected cozy up to the Thalmor. I can get you into one of those parties. Once you're inside the embassy, you can get away and find Elenwen's secret files. I have a contact inside the embassy. He's not up for this kind of high-risk mission, but he can help you. His name is Malborn. Wood Elf. Plenty of reason to hate the Thalmor. You can trust him. I'll get word for him to meet you in Solitude at the Winking Skeever. You know it? While you're doing that, I'll work on getting you an invitation to Elenwen's little party. Meet me at the Solitude stables after you've arranged things with Malborn. Any questions?
I asked her what I was supposed to do once inside.
That's when the fun starts. You'll have to slip away from the party without raising the alarm. Then you'll need to find Elenwen's office and search her files. Malborn should be able to point you in the right direction.
Lastly, I asked her if she was sure her contact could be trusted.
Don't worry about Malborn. He's not a dangerous character like you. But he hates the Thalmor at least as much as I do. He's a wood elf. The Thalmor wiped out his family back in Valenwood during one of their purges that we never hear about. Luckily, they don't know who he really is, or he wouldn't be serving drinks at the ambassador's parties.
I tell her that I'll meet her at the stables outside Solitude.
Sounds good. Be careful.
Exiting the inn, I fast traveled over to Whiterun and took the carriage services to the capital, as I had never been there before. Arriving, I ran through the gates just in time to witness Rogvir's execution, but time was of the essence, so I let the show go on without me. The Winking Skeever was right by the entrance to the city, and going on inside, I spotted Malborn seated by himself in the corner.
What do you need?
I tell him that our mutual friend sent me.
Really? You're who she picked? I hope she knows what she's doing. Here's the deal. I can smuggle some equipment into the embassy for you. Don't plan on bringing anything else in with you. The Thalmor takes security very seriously. Give me what you can't live without, and I'll make sure to get it into the embassy. The rest is up to you.
I asked him what kind of things I should bring with me.
You're asking me? She promised that she was sending someone who knew what they were doing. If you actually want to get out alive, I'd bring whatever you need to move quietly and kill quickly.
Finally, I'm ready to give him some of my things.
Okay, I'll get this inside the embassy for you. I've got to go. I'll find you at the party. Don't worry.
It's funny because I don't believe there's a limit on what can be given to Malborn, so in theory, I could just send everything that I own off with him. But in order to keep my immersion, I send over the necessities, albeit there is a lot of them, and leave it at that. Officially naked and ready, Malborn and I exit the Winking Skeever and leave Solitude. Hauling it over to the stables, I spot Delphine hanging out by the mill and approach her.
Have you given Malborn the gear you want to smuggle into the embassy?
I tell her that Malborn's all set.
Good. I have your invitation to the party. But the only way you're going to get past the guards is if they really believe you're an invited guest. Which means you need to look the part and not be armed to the teeth. Here, put this on. When you're ready, I'll keep the rest of your gear safe until you get back. You'll only have what Malborn smuggled in for you, plus whatever you can pick up inside.
Going into my inventory, I throw on the party clothes and boots that Delphine handed over to me.
I guess that will have to do. You should pass for a real guest, at least until you open your mouth. Ready to board the carriage to the embassy?
I tell her that I'm ready and ask her to keep the rest of my things safe.
Don't worry, it will all be waiting for you when you get back. Just make sure you get back out of there alive with the information we need. Good luck.
Boarding the carriage, the next thing I know, I'm at this elegant manor. It appears to be the Thalmor embassy, and I arrived at the same time as someone named Raislin. He went on and on about how this place was hard to reach, how he was looking forward to the drinking, and even asked if he could ride in my carriage once the party was over. Having a look around, everything's locked up tight, and wouldn't you know it, there are Thalmor agents all over the place. Approaching the embassy entrance, I was stopped by a guard.
Welcome to the Thalmor Embassy. Your invitation, please.
I handed it right over.
Thank you, sir. Go right in.
Proceeding with the plan, I walked on through the doors and was brought straight to the party.
Welcome. I don't believe we've met. I am Elenwen, the Thalmor ambassador to Skyrim. And you are?
I formally introduced myself.
Ah, yes. I remember your name from the guest list. Please, tell me more about yourself. What brings you to this... to Skyrim? What is it, Malborn?
It's just that we've run out of the Alto wine. Do I have your permission to uncork the...
Of course. I've told you before not to bother me with such trifles.
Yes, Madam Ambassador.
My apologies. We'll have to get better acquainted later. Please, enjoy yourself.
Saving me from a risky conversation, I went over to Malborn and spoke with him.
Far too proud a woman.
What can I get for you? You made it in. Good. As soon as you distract the guards, I'll open this door and we can get you on your way. Let's hope we both live through this day.
I took the next little bit of time to acquaint myself with the surroundings and people present. There were some seemingly prestigious folks here like Maven Blackbriar, Jarl Idgrod Ravencrone, a businessman named Eriker, and of course, Raislin, the drunkard from outside. Perhaps on the verge of getting a little too dicey, I decided to pursue further conversations with some of the higher-ranking Thalmor members, like Ondalamar.
The degeneracy of the Empire is on display here in this room.
I came out the gate with the heavy question of if there could ever be peace between the Empire and the Thalmor.
There is peace now, and that peace will continue for as long as it suits our needs. But make no mistake, this is not a peace forged out of necessity between rival nations of equal strength. It is more like the calm between storms, and the next storm, I think, will be far deadlier than the last.
Next, I asked what his duties were here in Skyrim.
I lead the Justiciars. We are charged with enforcing the ban on Talos worship. Nords can be quite stubborn. They're slow to change their ways, and we find more heretics every day. But mark me well. I will purge the heresy from this land as surely as the flame burns the flesh from the bone.
Exiting the conversation, I then sought out Elenwen and resumed our chat from before.
Of course, she would never admit.
I'm so glad you could attend today.
I asked her what her duties were like as ambassador.
One of my main duties is to foster a better understanding between the Aldmeri Dominion and the people of Skyrim. I also oversee the activities of the Thalmor Justiciars throughout Skyrim, although this has been most unfortunately disrupted by the war.
I then inquired about how she felt on the Civil War.
As long as the Empire continues to uphold its treaty obligations, my government does not concern itself with the internal politics of Skyrim.
Putting a bookmark in our talk, I started to brainstorm on how I could create a distraction. The wheels started to turn, though, when I began speaking with Raislin.
What does a fellow need to do to get a drink around here?
I did some schmoozing and said that he looked a little thirsty.
My friend, you are very perceptive. I have a powerful thirst that cannot be slaked. And none of the waiters will bring me a drink. Elenwen must have told him to cut me off, the frigid bitch. Afraid I'll cause another scene, I suppose.
Stepping away for a second, I approached Malborn and asked for a drink.
Yes, what do you need? Here you go, sir. The finest Colovian brandy. Is there anything else I can get for you?
Bringing it back over to Raistlin, he was more than pleased.
Ah, the one generous soul amongst a gathering of pinch pennies and lick spittles. If there's anything I can ever do for you, do not hesitate to call upon me.
Yes, sir.
Striking while the iron's hot, I told him that I needed that favor.
Wonderful. I can begin to repay your generosity immediately. Say on, friend.
I asked him to make a scene.
Is that all? My friend, you've come to the right person. You could say that causing a scene is somewhat of a specialty of mine. Stand back and behold my handiwork.
As he shot up from his seat, I began to slink back towards the bar and watch the madness unfold.
Attention, everyone! Could I have your attention, please? I have an announcement to make. I propose a toast to Elenwen, our mistress.
What are you
I
doing?
speak figuratively, of course. Nothing could be more unlikely than that someone would actually want her in their bed.
The plan was working a little too well, and the guards were shutting him down, so I moved quickly with Malborn.
Let's go, before anyone notices us.
Fine!
The Bosmer closes the door behind me, and we begin to talk.
Wouldn't want to offend our Thalmor overlords, would we?
So far, so good. Let's hope nobody saw us slip out. We need to pass through the kitchen. Your gear is hidden in the larder. Just stay close and let me do any talking, got it? Follow me.
Who comes, Malborn? You know I don't like strange smells in my kitchen.
A guest feeling ill. Leave the poor wretch be.
A guest? In the kitchens? You know this is against the rules.
Rules, is it, Savani? I didn't realize that eating moon sugar was permitted. Perhaps I should ask the ambassador.
Get out of here. I saw nothing.
Your gear is in that chest. I'll lock the door behind you. Don't screw this up. I need to lock the door behind you, or the patrols might notice something's wrong.
Peeking inside, all of my gear that I handed over to him in Solitude was front and center. Taking it all and equipping my weapons and armor, I began phase 2 of the mission and moved on through the door leading further into the embassy. Malborn closed it behind me, and immediately, the soldiers and wizards were alerted to my position. They came charging out, weapons in one hand and destruction magic being cast out the other. I think Magicka is pretty overpowered in this game to begin with, but combine that with my Altmer's added weakness to it, it's a tough situation for me to deal with. In terms of fighting back, I had the most luck with my Warhammer as it was able to run down their HP the fastest. There were only 3 Thalmor agents in the first zone, and once they were taken care of, I explored around a bit looking through the upstairs section. There was some minor loot to take, including soul gems, gold, and potions. Once done, I followed the quest marker and it led me outside. I was brought to a different courtyard from the first one I arrived in. However, similar to that original one, there were multiple guards on patrol. Taking out one of the soldiers first, I then had to deal with a wizard whom was able to lock me down pretty good. He would cast sparks from afar and move backwards when I tried to get in close for the takedown. Thinking I could get a brief break from them, I entered back into the embassy, only for them to have followed me. The joke was on them though, as I now had them right where I wanted them. Of course, health potions were needed, but through some relentless swings with my Warhammer, both of them were defeated. The courtyard was now clear, and I could make my way into Elenwen's solar. Right as I got inside though, I apparently interrupted a meeting of sorts as a few guards were having a chat with a man named Gisser over some owed money. 2 of them came rushing in, a soldier and the Nord. First, the high elf went down, then the poor sod asking for money. Next, a Thalmor agent named Rulindul entered the room and began casting sparks at me. I wasn't really able to handle him at the moment, so I quickly stepped outside, regenerated my bars a bit, and then went back in. Interestingly though, the solar was now quiet, and Rulindil was gone. After looking around for a bit, I stumbled across the quest-marked chest and looked inside. There was a key to an interrogation chamber, Thalmor dossiers on Delphine and Ulfric Stormcloak, and then a note regarding the dragon investigation. Taking a peek at the dossiers, Delphine's reads, status, active, capture or kill, high priority, emissary level approval. Description, female, Breton, mid-50s. Background, Delphine was a high priority target during the First War, for both operational and political reasons. She was directly involved in several of the most damaging operations carried out by the Blades within the Dominion. She had been identified and was slated for the initial purge, but by bad luck, was recalled to Cyrodiil just before the outbreak of hostilities. During the war, she evaded 3 attempts on her life, in one case, killing an entire assassination team. Since then, we have only indirect evidence of her movements, as she has proven extremely alert to our surveillance. She should be considered very dangerous, and no move against her should be made without overwhelming force and the most careful preparation. Operational notes. She's believed to still be working actively against us within Skyrim, although we have no location on her. Assumed to be working alone, as no other Blades are known to be active in Skyrim, and she has, in the past, avoided contact with other fugitive Blades for her own security, one of the reasons she has so far evaded elimination. Her continued existence is an affront to all of us. Any information on her whereabouts or activities should be immediately forwarded to the third emissary. Next, I took a peek at Ulfric's dossier. Status, asset, uncooperative. Dormant, emissary level, approval. Description, Jarl of Windhelm, leader of Stormcloak Rebellion, Imperial Legion veteran. Background, Ulfric first came to our attention during the First War against the Empire, when he was taken as a prisoner of war during the campaign for the White Gold Tower. Under interrogation, we learned of his potential value, son of the Jarl of Windhelm, and he was assigned as an asset to the interrogator, who is now First Emissary Elenwen. He was made to believe information obtained during his interrogation was crucial in the capture of the Imperial City. The city had in fact fallen before he had broken, and then allowed to escape. After the war, contact was established, and he has proven his worth as an asset. The so-called Markarth incident was particularly valuable from the point of view of our strategic goals in Skyrim, although it resulted in Ulfric becoming generally uncooperative to direct contact. Operational notes. Direct contact remains a possibility under extreme circumstances, but in general, the asset should be considered dormant. As long as the Civil War proceeds in its current indecisive fashion, we should remain hands-off. The incident at Helgen is an example where an exception had to be made. Obviously, Ulfric's death would have dramatically increased the chance of an Imperial victory, and thus harmed our overall position in Skyrim. Note, the coincidental intervention of the dragon at Helgen is still under scrutiny. The obvious conclusion is that whoever is behind the dragons also has an interest in the continuation of the war, but we should not assume, therefore, that their goals align with our own. A Stormcloak victory is also to be avoided, however, so even indirect aid to the Stormcloaks must be carefully managed. Finally, I read the notes on the dragon investigation. First Emissary Elenwen. We anticipate a breakthrough in our efforts to uncover the party or power behind the dragon resurrection phenomenon. An informant has identified a possible lead, whom we've brought back to the embassy for a full interrogation. The subject is obstinate, but by all indications is holding back the information we seek. I have authorized intermediate manual uncoiling. I do not expect more will be necessary unless you feel time presses. I know you prefer to be present for the final questioning. I will inform you immediately when the subject is fully receptive. 2 days should tell the tale. In the meantime, if you wish to audit our technique, your expertise is welcome. As always, I have placed the prisoner in the cell closest to your office stairs for your convenience. Rulendil, 3rd M. So it would seem that Delphine was wrong, and the Thalmor know just as little as she does with regards to the return of the dragons. Well, maybe not just as little anymore, as apparently there's someone with information currently in the torture chambers. A little irrelevant to the matter at hand, but just thinking about the dossier on Ulfric, it's very interesting that the Thalmor call him an asset, even though they're actively fighting against each other. It just goes to show that there's more at play here for the Altmeri Dominion, as the Empire and the Stormcloaks fight over the province's freedom. Returning to the mission, I descended the steps leading to the dungeon and entered on through. Once in there, I almost alerted the remaining guards to my position, but they quickly lost interest and started torturing their subject for more information.
Stop, please. I don't know anything else. Don't you think I'd have told you already?
Silence. You know the rules. Do not speak unless spoken to. Master Rulendil will ask the questions.
Let's begin again.
No, for pity's
You know the
sake.
rules.
I've already told you everything.
No! Start at the beginning, as usual. If you persist
No,
in this
wait.
stubbornness,
I was just
I'll have...
catching my breath. Why wouldn't I tell you again? I don't even know anything. There's an old man. He lives in Riften. He could be this Esbern you're looking for, but I don't know. He's old and seemed kind of crazy. That's all I know.
And his name is?
I don't know his name. Like I've already told you 100. Oh!
You know the rules. Just answer the questions. And where can we find this nameless old man?
Having heard enough, I interrupted the interrogation and came in swords blazing. Admittedly, I wasn't really paying attention to my health and was more so satisfied with the unrelenting force I had just let off that the last Thalmor soldier got the better of me. Trying again, this time I took out the soldier first and then moved in for the kill on Rulindil. With what appeared to be all of the threats taken care of, I looted Rulindil's things and then searched his chest. Inside, there was one final dossier, and it was written on someone named Esbern. Taking a peek at it, it reads, Status, Fugitive, Capture Only. Highest Priority, Emissary Level Approval. Description, Male Nord, Late 70s. Background, Esbern was one of the Blade's lore masters prior to the First War against the Empire. He was not a field agent, but is now believed to have been behind some of the most damaging operations carried out by the Blades during the pre-war years, including the Falanesti incident and the breach of the Blue River prison. His file had remained dormant for many years, an inexcusable error on the part of my predecessor, who has been recalled to Alinor for punishment and re-education, in the erroneous belief that he was unlikely to pose a threat due to his advanced age and lack of field experience. A salutary reminder to all operational levels that no Blades agent should be considered low priority for any reason. All are to be found and justice exacted upon them. Operational notes. As we are still in the dark as to the cause and meaning of the return of the dragons, I have made capturing Esbern our top priority, as he is known to be one of the experts in the dragon lore of the Blades. Regrettably, we have yet to match their expertise on the subject of dragons, which was derived from their Akaviri origins and is still far superior to our own, which remains largely theoretical. The archives of Cloud Ruler Temple, which is believed to have been the primary repository of the oldest Blades lore, were largely destroyed during the siege, and although great effort has been made to reconstruct what is lost, it now appears that most of the records related to dragons were either removed or destroyed prior to our attack. Thus, Esbern remains our best opportunity to learn how and why the dragons have returned. It cannot be ruled out that the Blades themselves are somehow connected to the dragon's return. We have recently obtained solid information that Esbern is still alive and hiding somewhere in Riften. Interrogation of a possible eyewitness is ongoing. We must proceed carefully to avoid Esbern becoming alerted to his danger. If he is indeed in Riften, he must not be given an opportunity to flee. Putting down the book, I didn't even have time to process it before Thalmor reinforcements arrived.
Listen up, spy. You're trapped in here, and we have your accomplice. Surrender immediately, or you both die.
Never mind.
Silence,
I'm
traitor.
dead already.
Move.
I ran as fast as I could up the stairs, but all I could hear were the sounds of Malborn getting slaughtered. By the time I made it to the action, one of the soldiers delivered the killing blow on him. I relentlessly swung my warhammer around, showing no mercy and slaying each one. Unfortunately, it wouldn't bring Malborn back, but at least he didn't die for nothing. The last order of business to take care of was the prisoner, Etienne Rarnis.
I told you. I don't know anything else about it.
I told him that I wasn't here to torture him.
What? Who? What do you want then?
I said that there was no time to explain and freed him.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Come on, this way. I've seen the guards use it to get rid of bodies. It must lead somewhere.
I tell him to lead the way.
Whatever you want. But let's go, now.
Running over to the trapdoor, I waited for Etienne to sneak his way over, and to be honest, there was something about his form and posture while doing so that really freaked me out for some reason. Climbing down, we were placed in some caves and hurried our way to freedom. Just before the exit though, we heard some monstrous growls and roars. Below the platform we were standing on was a frost troll, and unlucky for Etienne, he jumped down prematurely. I tried to distract it with fire, but it was of no use. Rarnis got stuck on the wall, the troll approached and savagely killed him. I had some difficulty last time with the frost troll on the 7,000 steps, and at least there, I could control the fight and retreat down the mountain. Here, I was in a tight space with nothing but me and the beast. Hopping down, I got in close and shot it with as much fire as I could. My magicka would quickly drain, and I downed a bunch of potions for the regeneration. Lucky for me, I didn't get hit once and managed to defeat it in a timely manner. Just underneath the platform I jumped down from, there was a small nook which contained a dead conjurer. Near him were some treasures, including an unusual gem, which spawned a miscellaneous quest. Escaping the cave, and ultimately the embassy, I opened the map and fast traveled to Riverwood. Entering the Sleeping Giant Inn, I sought out Delphine in her war room.
You made it out alive, at least. Your gear's safe in my room, as promised. Did you learn anything useful?
I told her that the Thalmor knew nothing of the dragons.
Really? That seems hard to believe. You're sure about that?
I then informed her that they're looking for someone named Esbern.
Esbern? He's alive? I thought the Thalmor must have got him years ago. That crazy old man. Figures the Thalmor would be on his trail, though, if they were trying to find out what's going on with the dragons.
I asked why they would want him.
You mean aside from wanting to kill every blade they can lay their hands on? Esbern was one of the Blade's archivists, back before the Thalmor smashed us during the Great War. He knew everything about the ancient dragon lore of the Blades. Obsessed with it, really. Nobody paid much attention back then. I guess he wasn't as crazy as we all thought.
I told her that they believe he could be found somewhere in Riften.
Riften, eh? Probably down in the ratway, then. It's where I'd go. You'd better get to Riften. Talk to Brynjolf. He's well connected. A good starting point, at least. Oh, and when you find Esbern, if you think I'm paranoid, you may have some trouble getting him to trust you. Just ask him where he was on the 30th of Frostfall. You'll know what it means.
Exiting the conversation, thus ends the quest, Diplomatic Immunity. On my way out, I snagged Delphine's Orcish greatsword, figuring she probably wasn't going to use it. Popping open the map, I traveled to the carriage driver by Whiterun and used his services to quickly reach the rift. Before being able to hop in the back though, a courier came running by and handed me a note. It seems my deeds across Skyrim haven't gone unnoticed, and now the Jarl of Falkreath would like me to become its Thane. Side quests aside, I arrived at the Riften stables and attempted to enter the city.
Hold there. Before I let you into Riften, you need to pay the visitor's tax.
I asked what the tax was for.
For the privilege of entering the city. What does it matter?
At first, I chose to be brazen and threaten the guards.
I think you'd be a little smarter than that.
I then called this out as an obvious shakedown.
All right, keep your voice down. You want everyone to hear you? I'll let you in. Just let me unlock the gate.
Gaining entrance to Riften, the atmosphere and culture was pretty magical. As pointed out with Whiterun and a little bit of Solitude, there are conversations and interactions going on everywhere. For example, a man named Maul stopped me by the gates and sort of threatened me by becoming my friend, if that makes sense. Continuing along, I found myself in a mini market of sorts and located Delphine's contact, Brynjolf.
Best in all of Skyrim.
Never done an honest day's work in your life for all that coin you're carrying, hey lad?
I asked him to repeat himself.
I'm saying you've got the coin, but you didn't earn a septim of it honestly. I can tell.
I tell him that my wealth is none of his business.
Oh, but that's where you're wrong, lad. Wealth is my business. Maybe you'd like a taste.
I ask what he has in mind.
I've got a bit of an errand to perform, but I need an extra pair of hands. And in my line of work, extra hands are well paid.
I inquire about what I have to do.
Simple. I'm going to cause a distraction. You're gonna steal Medesi's silver ring from a strongbox under his stand. Once you have it, I want you to place it in Branche's pocket without him noticing.
Choosing to back out of the conversation and stray away from the criminal business, I restarted the chat and told Brynjolf that I'm really here for Esbern.
Ah, expecting free information, eh? Help me deal with business first, then we'll see how I can help you. Besides, you look like your pockets are a little light on coin. Am I right?
I attempted to get the information out of him first.
Passing on a golden opportunity is worse.
Humoring his little scheme, I asked why Branche.
There's someone that wants to see him put out of business permanently. That's all you need to know. Now, you tell me when you're ready, and we'll get started.
I tell him that it's time.
Good. Wait until I start the distraction, then show me what you're made of.
Everyone, gather round. I have something amazing to show you that demands your attention.
As Brynjolf begins to make a scene, all of the vendors and locals congregate over to him. This was my cue to slip away and begin looking for the strongbox. I located the stand with the easiest lock to pick, as I figured this was probably still a beginner quest, and I broke into it. Sliding the door open, I lucked out and seeing Medesi's nameplate labeled across the stand and broke into their strongbox. From there, I snagged the silver ring and crept counterclockwise to Brynjolf's show. Branche, the target for this whole thing, was sitting on a pile of crates with his back turned to me, making my job incredibly easy. As soon as the ring was placed in his inventory, Brynjolf immediately put an end to the whole thing and dismissed everybody. When the area was cleared, I spoke with him again.
Looks like I chose the right person for the job. And here you go. Your payment. Just as I promised. The way things have been going around here, it's a relief that our plan went off without a hitch.
I ask him what's been going on.
Nah, my organization's been having a run of bad luck. But I suppose that's just how it goes. But never mind that. You did the job, and you did it well. Best of all, there's more where that came from, if you think you can handle it.
I tell him that the money's nice, but I'm not sure about the work itself.
Look, I'll make this simple for you. The group I represent has its home in the Ratway beneath Riften, a tavern called the Ragged Flagon. When you make up your mind, come find me there, and we'll talk about your future.
That completes the small side quest, but there's still the matter of finding Esbern.
I'll entertain you a bit more. Yeah, I bet I know your guy. He's hiding out in the Ratway Warrens, paying us good coin for nobody to know about it.
I ask him how I can find the Ratway.
If I have to hold your hand through everything, maybe you aren't cut out for this kind of work. It's under your feet, lad. Just follow the smell.
Exiting the conversation, I leapt over the railing and landed in the narrow canal just below. Along the stone wall was an entrance to the Ratway, exactly as Brynjolf had said. Going in, I had only taken a few steps forward and had already caught the attention of a small team of outlaws, Draf and Hunan Blackskeever. I couldn't quite catch their full conversation, but looking it up, it appears that whatever work they're doing, Hunan feels it's bettering the interests of the Thieves Guild and isn't quite doing them any favors. Meanwhile, Draf is simply telling him to trust the process. Regardless, both are now dead, and their hopes and dreams have gone with them. The next enemy I came across was a lowlife, which appears to be the common tunnel dweller here in Riften. Their stats are probably similar to bandits, but they're far less equipped for battle. After him came John the Fist, and John fought with some unique gauntlets called Gloves of the Pugilist, which gave unarmed strikes an additional 10 damage. Continuing onwards, I soon came across a door leading into the Ragged Flagon. This place was certainly interesting and was the hideout of sorts that Brynjolf mentioned his organization liked to frequent. There were quite a few people down here, and as I came passing by, it sounded like my new friend was getting into a spat with the bartender. Deciding to leave my curiosity for another time, the doorway right by the tavern led to another zone called the Ratway Vaults. As soon as I entered on through, I saw some torches moving around in the distance. Getting a closer look, it appeared as though the Thalmor were also on Esbern's trail and were remarkably close to finding him. In a similar fashion to the embassy, I attempted to sneak up on them and was immediately spotted. Holding my ground by the entrance, I waited for each Thalmor agent to turn the corner and relentlessly swung away at them. It seemed like for now, the wizards were the ones I had the most trouble with, as their destruction spells are the most effective at depleting my health. Luckily, there appeared to be only 3 of them down here searching, and for a little while, that was my last encounter with enemies. Running through a series of rooms and hallways, I soon found myself at the Ratway Warrens. There were a few people down here too, but they were talking to themselves and minding their own business, which was good enough for me. Ascending to the top platform, the quest marker led me to a heavily fortified door.
Go away!
I tell him to open the door as I'm a friend.
What? No, that's not me. I'm not Esbern. I don't know what you're talking about.
I tell him that Delphine had sent me.
Delphine? How do you... So you finally found her, and she led you to me. And here I am, caught like a rat in a trap.
Remembering what Delphine told me to say, I bring up the 30th of Frostfall.
Ah, indeed. Indeed. I do remember. Delphine really is alive, then? You'd better come in, then, and tell me how you found me, and what you want. This'll just take a moment. This one always sticks. There we go. Only a couple more.
Yes.
There we are. Come in, come in. Make yourself at home. That's better. Now we can talk. So, Delphine keeps up the fight after all these years. I thought she'd have realized it's hopeless by now. I tried to tell her years ago.
I ask what he means by hopeless.
Haven't you figured it out yet? What more needs to happen before you all wake up and see what's going on? Alduin has returned just like the prophecy said. The dragon from the dawn of time who devours the souls of the dead. No one can escape his hunger, here or in the afterlife. Alduin will devour all things and the world will end. Nothing can stop him. I tried to tell them. They wouldn't listen. Fools. It's all come true. All I could do was watch our doom approach.
I asked if Alduin was the dragon who's raising the others.
Yes, yes. You see, you know, but you refuse to understand.
I question if he's talking about the actual end of the world.
Oh yes, it's all been foretold. The end has begun. Alduin has returned. Only a dragonborn can stop him. But no dragonborn has been known for centuries. It seems that the gods have grown tired of us. They've left us to our fate as the plaything of Alduin the World Eater.
That's when I inform him I'm the dragonborn.
What? You are? Can it really be true? Dragonborn? Then there is hope. The gods have not abandoned us. We must go. Quickly now. Take me to Delphine. We have much to discuss. But give me just a moment. I must gather a few things.
As Esbern grabs his things, I prepare myself for the journey ahead. I was lucky to have so few encounters on the way over here, but I'm not so sure that I'll share the same fortune when Esbern and I leave. With that, thus ends the quest, A Cornered Rat.